Yeah, I don't know how Ben does it every episode.
I don't.
I don't know how to do it.
It's not graceful at all.
No, he does it with such grace and poise. Good evening, good morning, good day, good afternoon, and welcome along to a Benless and Declan On A Roll episode. If you notice, Ben isn't in his usual seat. I am joined this evening by a very, very good friend of mine. I'll just say a very old friend of mine.
How dare, because that puts us both in a bad
Both
place.
of those work. But if you have ever listened to, if you've been listening to Romancing Dungeon or you've caught any of the D8 Dungeon charity streams, then you may recognize my very good friend Lou, who plays the totally okay and everything's fine Fia. And don't ask any further questions.
It's fine. I swear, it's fine.
It's all fine. It's all fine. So Ben and I had kind of discussed, what would we postpone the episode while he was away, or would we keep going? And given that it would be just the second episode of the year, we wanted to kind of plow on. And as we all know, I am happy to talk away to myself. But I figured with the big day looming, and what Louise and I have been doing together in terms of Romancing the Dungeon, that tonight's episode would focus very much on running games for smaller tables, and then ultimately exploring bigger feelings. So while I guess like the prompt, the question we have for chat tonight is, it does specifically say romance, but I guess if we want to broaden that out, how, I guess, to chat, how comfortable are you as a player or DM bringing romantic scenes into your games, your stories, your adventures, your campaigns? But if that's a kind of a no, I'm not really, our table doesn't really do the whole romance thing. What about bigger feelings? What about role playing characters' emotions? What about getting into the kind of I guess the heavier side of role playing? Outside of just reacting to the BBG and reacting to combat and stuff like that. Those moments where you are dealing with heavier emotions or bigger emotions than just the exhilaration of combat. So that's our food for thought for tonight for chat. So would love to know your insight. And we did already, if you're following us on social media, like on Blue Sky and on Instagram, we have done a kind of a survey, and we also fielded some questions as well from folks who follow us on Blue Sky and Instagram. Actually, I should have put it in the Discord. I completely forgot to put it in the Discord as well. So we'll get back to those. But Louise, I know I kind of introed you, but to kind of put that agency in your hands, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what your TTRPG history looks like?
Yeah, sure. So, well, most of my TTRPG history is quite intertwined with Declan's. I can thank him quite heartily for getting me involved in TTRPGs back when we met in university a number of years ago. And we started out with GURPS. That was kind of what got me hooked on it, because it was very easy to get into and very much story, theater, and mind driven, which I really, really loved. As far as other TTRPGs, love Vampire, love Magic. D&D has been great. Like, I only started playing D&D when we actually started the podcast. That's the first time I've ever played the system. And it's been great. It's been really cool, and it's kind of an expansive thing and great to go to. Like, I love going to conventions with the guys and playing then with people there that I don't know, and experiencing that and the excitement in the room and being part of that community is really, really cool.
So I guess like Louise said, we've we've been playing TTRPGs since we were both in college together. And I mean that was kind of like almost 20 years ago.
Ow.
Yeah. But yeah, I know it's one of the ooh, when you think about it, ooh, but it was. Let's just face it, it was.
Yeah.
But I guess that this is kind of what I kind of want to start our kind of our tonight's kind of topic about. Um, I have uh we've always, Louise, we've always played with big emotions, big feelings. Um and like we've always done kind of the, the big table, the battle, and the bad guy or their minions, and like people getting hurt and reacting and stuff like that. Um I wanna um I wanna kind of talk about the kind of the small tables first,
Mm.
because this is something that you and I have never really. I've done it a couple of times, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you done like what's the smallest group you've played with? Like what's the smallest table you've been at?
Honestly, I think the romancing table, because even our first table that we had, like how many? There was like 8 players that you were trying to control.
Romancing?
No, GURPS.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, that so. I guess yeah. So yeah, it was kind of 8, and then it was like 6, and it was like 5 regulars, but yeah, up to 8 people.
Yeah.
Um,
So romancing has been like the smallest table that I've been a part of.
okay.
Because it's been four of us total in terms of players.
Mm,
Certainly that I can think of off the top of my head anyway. Like correct me if I'm wrong if I've done a stream where there's been less, but that's the one I suppose it sticks in the memory because it's the one I play the most. Um for that reason. And I do like that kind of intimacy with it because I find then that the four of us, along with yourself, because there's not that this is a bad thing, big tables are a lot of fun too. But when we're working on a story with such big emotions and that I do find working with less people has helped because it's less kind of relationships and nuances to keep a track of for me, myself personally. And certainly when it is this long form story as well.
so let's kind of hone in on the kind of the what we've been doing the last few months,
Mm.
because it's been um you have not sat at the romancing the dungeon table.
Since last summer.
Yeah. Like we're over 6 months, like, and
Mm.
you and I have recorded together, and myself and Sam, Ben, Amber, and Eilish have recorded together.
Mm.
But you have not been present for those sessions,
No,
and vice
and
versa.
until the FIA episodes were released, Sam, Ben, Eilish, Amber have not heard what we got up to. And you recorded that stuff with
Mhm.
them well before anything of mine was released. So it's very much like there was no influence on either path of the story so
Yeah,
far, which is really, really interesting.
yeah, and just for anybody that does listen to the show, the way it usually works is, I do like I'll edit, or Louise will edit, and we'll then give the episodes to the rest of the cast to be like, could you listen to this? Could you, continuity, narrative, sound design, music levels, just have a listen and see. This is the first time in the 5 years ish that we've been running
Mm.
that we don't give. I haven't been sharing it. So Louise gets Fia's episodes only, and the guys get their episodes only.
Which
Um,
is really annoying for me.
and it's just to keep that thing of like, let's not
Yeah.
let's not know what everybody's up to, because I don't want them to be like, oh shit, this is happening, and or you to be like, oh, okay, I can't do these things because I need to get back to the. So if to give that sort of, but let's what so it has been just you and me
Yeah.
at the space. How do you like? I know it's difficult because obviously I'm the DM, but uh, how do you find it honestly? Like,
Honestly.
yeah.
Um, So it kind of ties back into something that we were discussing ages ago before Ben joined us a little bit, where it was like we were talking about how to expand Fia's story and like, maybe bringing in a love interest and stuff for her. And it came down to like, well, will Declan play this love interest? And it was like a hard no, because it's like that would be too awkward. And then there was this little level of anxiety then when it came to that one-on-one on the table, because there is this even greater level of vulnerability when you're just facing one-on-one with a person, even though like I've known you for so long, there is always that worry. And there's also that pressure as well of like, I am the only player now at the table. So this really hinges on my actions. More so than it being affected by other people around me as well. And I know there's no kind of like, say, wrong action either. There's that side of it as well. But it's just me as a person. I'm like, oh, I don't want to, let people down, let the story down and stuff like that. When it came to it, so the way we recorded it was we did evenings after work. Usually when we do the romancing ones, it's like it's one big day where we'll record a block together, which is really fun. But for this, we did like, say, one episode an evening after work once a week, which kind of helped keep it fresh. It also helped, because we were dealing with big emotions, give breaks in between, so it wasn't a lot of energy that was being exerted. Because even I know we did try and do one day where we did a couple, and we had to scrap the last hour and a half, 2 hours of what we recorded, because we were both wrecked.
There was no energy, that was kind of very early on. And I think from my perspective, and again, this isn't, please don't read into this as like kind of, oh, he's not happy with if I wasn't happy, we wouldn't be putting it out.
Yeah.
But I think what was happening, and we have talked about this, but before we go into sessions anyway, it's one of these things where we do kind of like, we do kind of notes, and we kind of go, look, this is what we're trying to do, and let's, work towards that, or whatever it might be. But I think what was happening, because there was a newness to that as well for me. And I've done short sessions, like in season 2, I did Hephaestus story solo, like in the Tales of Gaelshire. None of you were around for that. You all had to leave. You had to get, Ben had to go back up to Dublin with Eilish. I think you were heading home.
I was, yeah.
And same with Sam, he had to get back for stuff. So myself and Amber just ran that, but that was kind of like 40 minutes. It was a kind of a neat little thing at the end of a session, and we were kind of, because I think that you're pulling from each other's energy at a table. And there's always that thing of like, okay, I can rest because somebody else is talking, or somebody else is doing something. And I think what was happening in that, because that was our first real foray at this. I think what happened was we have to carry the whole narrative.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted because now I'm filling the scenes more. Like, I am going way heavier in descriptions. I'm going way heavier with like kind of weaving the tone and the emotion into it.
Yeah, I was also trying to, as best as I could, because again, you're sharing a table with 4 other players and you're used to like sitting back and taking your time. Also trying to make sure that I was also speaking up a bit more as well. So yeah, it was very draining.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it is, because with a bigger table, everybody is carrying a little bit of that, and in a scenario where it is just the 2 of us, very early on, it was kind of, I remember we finished up and it was just, I think that wasn't fun. That wasn't great. Let's stop.
Let's cut it.
And we'll use what we can use, and then let's continue. So I guess then my flip on that is kind of leading out of that, what's changed for you from that to, because I mean, for anyone that has been listening, like, the Fia's story has kind of progressed immensely. Like, we're seeing huge kind of character stuff. We're seeing kind of backstory and history. We're seeing emotions. We're seeing a side to her that as well we've never really seen. What's changed for you, let's say, from that first sort of like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work the way we think it's going to work, because it's very tiring, to now this thing that we've been doing for months?
I think what changed really was when we were talking earlier about how I was trying to talk up more because there was just the two of us at the table, I spent more time in my free time thinking actually about Fia, about what do I want to achieve with her here. And I think the biggest breakthrough for me was that she's not around her friends. She doesn't have to put on all of this happy-go-lucky facade that she's built up to make other people around her comfortable that she does, and this, like, you know, like being accommodating to other people and that kind of thing. So I think without having that there, I was like, okay, that is not there. She doesn't have to do that. I know she's with her mother, but it's like there is going to be silence here. Can she actually really look into herself? And I was like, okay, yes, I really want her to. So what am I going to do to get her to look into herself a bit more? And I think that helped because then I had a few more guiding points then, especially being one-on-one, to come in with things like talking more about Fia's feelings and bringing that out, how she's feeling in this headspace and bringing that out, how she's feeling about being around her mother again, who's been absent for all her life, and bringing that out more. And instead of being Fia, I felt like I was kind of perched above her a bit more. I'm like, what do I want to see from her?
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
not as much lost in the moment, but like thinking, what do I want to see from her? What do I want to come out after I've built this character and I care about this character so much? I have to do her justice here. So I felt like there was a little bit of a fight in me to make sure that I was doing her justice and getting that out. And I think that gave me energy then when it came into our sessions to try and get that across as the best I can, while also dealing with the fact this is still a game. And like some of the decisions I make are not going to work out well. Like I rolled quite a lot of nat ones when we were playing and stuff as
Mm.
well. Like, so even though I went in like wanting this stuff to happen, it's also playing with those punches too.
I want to go back to that sort of the dynamic of the group table versus the relationship then between a DM and just one player. What do you think are what do you think are the benefits of those sessions? Like what do you like? I mean, look, this is a group game. Like, generally speaking, it's kind of, grab a party, and that party can be 3 people, it can be 8 people, that side of things. But we're doing this thing very much one-on-one. What do you notice about the energy? What do you notice about the kind of the way the game plays, or does it change at all?
It does. It's instead of playing like tennis with 4 people, it's you're by yourself on your team. So the ball is constantly bouncing between you and one other person, like we were talking about earlier
You'll
with
notice that
energy.
I did not check that tennis rule because I was like, I thought tennis was just 2 people. Anyway, I was like,
You can play doubles.
if Michelle and Serena are here in chat, please don't call us
They
out.
play doubles with each other. Come on. I guess that was the difference as well, because I like when we're at the table together in the group, I find myself personally, I don't know about the rest, but myself personally, I'm very aware of not eating other people's time to make sure that everyone is given a fair chance. And as you mentioned earlier, there's also that you get that respite to sit back and listen to what everyone else is doing and like, okay, what am I going to do next? Even when it comes to rounds of combat, what am I going to do next? I have a few rounds to think up what I'm going to do here and all that kind of stuff. Like, what is my next ploy? Versus when it is just you and I, there's this very on the spotness. And I know there was a couple of times where I felt like I nearly had to take like 10 or 20 seconds to like really think about what you were asking me or what you wanted me to do or how you wanted me to react to a situation. It was also becoming comfortable in those moments of silence. It's like, it's okay to give yourself that little bit of time if you need it, because you're here by yourself, trying to figure out this by yourself. You don't have other people around you to bounce these ideas off of, like, what am I supposed to do here right now? It's purely you. So like, if you are doing a one-on-one with your DM, it's okay to give yourself that time of grace to, think about it a little longer if you need to as well. So that would be the major difference I would say between the two. And they're both exciting and entertaining for their own reasons as well.
Yeah, I like from, I one of my favorite things to do in any kind of TTRPG setting system is to just kind of play around with it and see what works, what doesn't work. And I think very early on, I wasn't. I mean, I was enjoying the story, but I wasn't necessarily enjoying the sort of the shouldering it more.
Mm.
And I think it's because of that sort of in a group space, everybody is sort of leading it more, and I. Uh, you are really really good at reacting to things, and you're really really good at like taking time and figuring out, then if it's not an immediate response, it's well, actually no, this is so I've always thought you've had a good handle on Fia as a character, but I do think, and I think it has changed, particularly as we got used to it.
Mm.
uh I found, and I've listened to some of the episodes, like the raw audio. uh you do an awful lot more scene building than I think you've ever done, uh,
Yes.
in any game we've ever
Any
played
game.
together.
Yeah.
Not just romantic. Like you will help fill that room. You will help fill that space. You will help fill, the background. You are, you are contributing to the description more than I've ever
Mm.
seen you do before.
And honestly,
Um,
yeah, definitely I've ever done before. I can even tell you that myself.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It that for me was one of the big sort of turning points, because I mean, do not get me wrong. I have no problem editing. I don't mind listening to myself, but sometimes I would be looking at, particularly in the early episodes. Jesus, I talked for this much, and Louise talked
Yeah.
for that much, and this is meant to be Fia's story, and I feel like I'm sort of, you know, not railroading it, but I think I'm like holding your hand and like pulling you in this direction and then pulling you in that direction.
I think
Uh,
because it was something that neither of us have ever done before, it was like I suppose the first couple of episodes we were still in like group table mind, and we really learned it along the way
yeah.
when it came to like that. And especially I think, yeah, especially for me, like I really didn't, as I mentioned earlier, I really didn't want it all to be you describing everything, like, because you're brilliant at describing everything. That's not it. But it's as that, it's like it's the two of us here, and I want to make sure I'm filling my time well, explaining how I feel, explaining how I'm reacting to this scene that you've built for me. And getting that across, because I mean, like, I think the thing was with the group table, it's mostly me talking. Either like if we're in combat, it's me talking about, okay, Fia's doing this, this, and this. And if we're not in combat, it's conversational
Yes. Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah.
Where so for this, it was she's spending a lot of time by herself in her own thoughts.
Mhm.
So I need to make sure that I am expressing that.
Mhm.
So that's where that side of it came out. And I do feel like it's something hopefully I can bring back to our group table as well. Again, not eating into other people's time, but like to bring in more of that, explaining how she's feeling in the situation and how she's looking, standing, and coming across to the rest if they pick up on it, if that happens. Um, I also think it might lead me to consider DMing at one stage,
Okay.
hopefully in the future, because that's one thing that's always been a fear of mine. But
You've been
after
saying
doing
it for
this,
4 years.
I know,
Oh, it's like
I know. But I think this has
piss or get
helped
off the
me.
pot. Piss or get off the
Shut up.
pot.
Shut up.
um,
I think this
no,
has helped me to consider it for sure.
no, I do think, because like I said, it was in the early episodes. It very much was sort of in the immediate aftermath of the events and getting out of Galeshire. I did, looking at it, I was like, okay, listening to the audio file and then editing it was like, okay, I'm just gonna get rid of that description that I gave. I'm just gonna get rid of that description that I gave because we don't need it. There was this whole big fucking description of bed, bath, and beholder,
Yeah.
of like the walls and like the flowers and the lights, and I was like, Jesus, this is a really lovely picture, but I don't think it's necessary, because I think at the table it was, if I give you the full scene, then you sort of have that room
Yeah.
to maybe go for something. And then on the episode that just came out on Friday, uh, keeping up with the Burbages,
Mm,
um, it's the complete opposite. Like I found listening to that episode, uh, and it is a lot of it is just Fia, like in her own thoughts. I can't do anything with that.
mm,
You'll give me something and I'll roll with it and I'll add to it. But I kind of felt there that you very much were in sort of that space and you were very much building on that really, really wonderfully. And I think it was kind of like a practice, kind of finding our feet with it. Um, and that has led us into some like really wonderful moments and some
mm.
really uh, heavy spaces. And before we kind of, because I want to come to some of the, I want to come to some of the comments that Zul has made. Uh, we do actually have a couple of questions around, as I was saying, we opened it up to kind of our social media channels to get a couple of questions, see what there were kind of around. Um, One question, Louise, is specifically for you. As a player, what should you do differently when playing at a one-on-one table?
I think it's going in prepared to speak up more. Um, when I started playing TTRPGs, and certainly when we were playing in bigger groups, I'd say I was probably the most reserved one there. The one I'd rarely interject, and I think doing the one-on-one, I had to get out of my comfort zone of that, and I had to hold my space. And realize there's nothing wrong with holding a little space for your character. They
Hang on,
deserve it.
hang on a second. No, like I have been doing my best to not use the phrase giving space, holding space,
No, I'm
keeping
doing it,
space.
sorry. Yeah, I'm
Um,
doing it.
uh, I've tried so hard to not, but okay. So I'm glad that you ripped off that band-aid. I'm now giving
Yeah.
you back your space. Um,
Yeah.
so you
Um,
think it really is that sort of you have to be prepared because more rests on your shoulders.
it does, and not to scare people off it, because it's been really brilliant for expanding even my idea of who my character is.
Mm,
I've had a great idea of who she is in my head and how she'd react to things and how she feels about things. But actually being one on one, getting the chance to actually verbalize that,
yeah.
to show her as more multi-dimensional. And as I said, like, being around a table with other people, and like, being limited on time, and it's being purely just either reacting to combat or conversation, it does really give you that opportunity to bring out all of those things that you were thinking about when you created your character, to really show them off. Um, in a kind of a braggy way a little bit, even though I know we dealt with heavier stuff, but like in a way it's like, here's how much I thought about her, and like, here it is.
Gotcha.
I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, it's like it's like you get to have like the spotlight and
Mm,
not worry that you know you're taking it from somebody else or you're diminishing it for a scene that other people are in. Um, there's another question. I guess we can both kind of answer this one. Do
okay.
you find it awkward or is there more pressure one on one than in a group?
I think it depends on the scene itself that we're working on. Like, if honest to God, if we were doing like one-on-one and it was a romance scene, that would be freaking horrible.
Mm,
I think it's because I see Declan, and especially after, because we lived together for a few years as well, I see Declan more as family, like a brother. So it's like, oh, I don't want to do this with like
mm,
someone I consider that. Um, yeah, but I guess where the story was going, and where we always knew what it was dealing with. Like from 5 years ago, we always knew that it was dealing with emotions. It was dealing with romance. Like, for Fia especially, I put in a lot of like familial issues into her backstory that was expanded upon. So I didn't. I was ready for that side of it,
okay.
for sure.
Um, I don't like. I don't think it's been awkward. I've
Mm,
never, um, I don't feel there's ever been any kind of awkward moments. I've
no.
never felt like, because we're both there to play, we're both there to tell the story. We both know what we're doing,
Mm,
so I don't necessarily think it's more awkward. I do think there is more pressure, though, and
yes.
I like, and not, and I do think what I want to clarify there is I think there's more pressure because we're doing this for an audience. You know, we're doing this for an audio drama. We're doing this to create a story and put it out there for others to listen to. So I think there's more pressure on us to perform it.
Mm,
Whereas I wonder if it was just a home game. Like
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I might be a bit awkward. You know, if I was like, "Hey Louise, what are you doing Saturday? Do you want to come over and play D&D with just me and
Oh,
you?"
just me and you. Yeah. That actually, do you know what that would be? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Honestly, thinking about it,
I
I
wonder
think that would be
because
harder
I think it changes the dynamic slightly.
slightly.
Um,
Because
but
there's a certain performativeness that is on because of the microphone being there. Like, because
mhm,
we talked about before, like, when it comes to making something for a podcast, there is a certain level of performativeness that you need there for
mhm.
it as well. Being aware that you do need a little bit of performativeness to it. So I
Um,
wonder.
yeah, I think it could because to go to some of the um to go to kind of the some of the kind of the other things that would, so Dahi, who is like a social media manager for DA Dungeon, also put up kind of a poll on one-on-one TTRPG sessions. And it's really interesting. So 57% of people who responded have never done a one-on-one session before, and
Hmm.
I actually thought that would have been a lot higher. I really think I thought that would have been a lot more. Just under 30% at 29 had said they love doing solo or doing
Wow.
one-on-one teacher pre sessions. So I think that's really, really cool to see. And then 14% of people aren't convinced about them or aren't
Hmm.
convinced about them or maybe convinced about doing them. Um,
Which is fair because I mean, I suppose traditionally, like TTRPGs are seen as a group activity as well.
I
That's
think
fair.
I also think I thought that number would be higher. I think I thought
Hmm.
there'd be more people would be like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I wonder if it is because, you know, like we said there, it's different because there's a microphone in front of us.
Hmm.
You know, we're performing, you know, we're improvising, and we're thinking as we go through it, and we're thinking, how do I make this good for an audience? How do I make this feel
Yes.
real for an audience? Whereas just us in my, you know, my games room, I don't know if we get the same vibe. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. A part of me is like, I don't think we would. I think it would feel a little.
I'd be curious to try it to see
Uh,
because I also think as well part of it that has played so well for how long we've been able to do these one-on-ones with each other is because of the fact that we do have that good of a relationship when it comes to playing TTRPGs because we have played them for so long together with each other. So I think there's that also helps with all of it too.
yeah, I do. I want to get into kind of the bigger emotions, the bigger feelings, and stuff like that. There's one more kind of question to do with kind of running one on one
Mm,
stuff, and it's kind of from a DM's perspective. How do you decide when a one on one is the best way to go? So I have kind of I have two answers to that.
oh yeah, I'm curious about this.
I have two solutions. One I think is the more obvious one, um, where your story has room for it. So for us, with Romancing the Dungeon, uh, the fact that Fia was already out of prison and was rescued by somebody else, that
Mm,
meant, you know, we could have said, you know, and you know, you meet in a safe house and the party continues on and you have to smuggle her out. But that's not where the story was going because that's not who the person who rescued her or
was
what they
interested in. Yeah.
interested in. So from a story point of view, from a campaign point of view, it can make sense to go one on one. But obviously, everybody has to be comfortable with that. You know, that's the that like above all else is the player and the DM who are going to be doing that ultimately going to be comfortable doing it, because, like we said, it is a little more work. It is a little more pressure, and I think has to factor in. The other thing I would say is, it is uh, it's called for when you and your group want to. And what I mean by that is, and for me, it kind of comes to a comment that Zul made in chat there. So Zul wrote, another session that was incredible was being the only one after, the only other player there for the session 0 of a player joining after our first arc. And I think that's such a cool way to do something like this, because for me, those one-on-one sessions are a really fun and interesting way to create a real sense of depth to a character. And whether that one-on-one session is in their backstory, do we delve into their past and explain where their mistrust of the wizard NPC that's kind of protecting them, or that's given them shelter, or has that sent them on a quest, or maybe we go into their past and we look at just why this artifact is so important to them, and we take that player into that space. I think, as a tool, it can be a really great way to just add another couple of pages to the story, without having to change what's coming in front of us. So you can use these one-on-one sessions to create some really interesting, engaging, intimate, emotional, even high stakes. Like, there's high stakes aplenty for Fia, and you don't have the luxury of your party next to you.
No.
And they're safe, because if we're playing in their backstory, will they survive? But does that explain where that scar that on their back comes from, or their fear of caves, whatever it might be? Like, there's a way here that you can add a really nice depth to it. So from my point of view, where the story allows for it, like if it's to do with the campaign, like we're doing with Romance in the Dungeon, and there's room for it, and everybody is up for that, then go for it. And if you're not if you don't want to go into the campaign, go into the past and do one-on-one. Also a great tool for, oh shite, we're supposed to play tonight, but Sam is working and Amber's a little under the weather or a little tired. Hey, Louise, do you want to do some solo stuff with Fia? Do we want to run like a one shot in her backstory? Do we want to go do kind of a small thing there? Or the guys already made camp outside the woods. Do you want to go into town and do something? Get the lay of the land, and just you come back. Then the story progressed, but to no great. But you now have information. There is
way to do that, because you can certainly do it. Not if you wanted to do one-on-ones, you could certainly just do a one session one-on-one and not a streak like what we're currently doing.
Yeah,
I like Declan was saying, take the pressure off a little bit about your character. Do it in their past, or if you want higher stakes, do it concurrently, because you don't know if your character's going to survive or not and end up back with the party, which adds a whole other level of stakes to the whole fucking thing.
Yeah, it's been a I'm really enjoying what we've gotten to do so far, Louise. And we've talked about, we've only a couple of more episodes left to kind of record, and the end of that isn't, and you meet the party, and the end of that is what happens. We don't know. So I'm really, really excited to see what story we get to tell together.
I have a question for you, actually. In terms of the romancing story, what sparked the idea of doing the party divided as it is now?
Boredom. No. I'll be honest with you. For me, it was the what if. You know, I think like I to be honest with you, like it's very selfish, but like from the person, from the from the DM's point of view, from the writer's point of view, I absolutely love not just kind of like, and she's out and we're going to go save the day. And no, like for me, this is a wonderful complication. This is a wonderful sort of, the group have come together. Fia and AJ are just, are this close.
How dare you?
And then what happens if that's torn from each other? What happens if somebody who has kind of been like the heart of the party, has been kind of the the softer, I mean, she's the most brutal one in the party, to be fair, but is the softy, is the
the considerate one,
the moderate one. What
Mm.
happens when she's gone? What happens when she doesn't have anybody else to sort of hide behind, and we have to put her front and center? And part of that is putting her in front of all the things that she has repressed for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And
And
how
does
do
she
we,
stand up or crumble?
yeah. That to me, and I also look, I also love a tragic love story. There's that as well. Like I'm a sucker for a tragedy.
He's absolutely. I think all my characters that where there has been like a love line in it, they've all been tragic in your games.
The best love stories are tragic love stories. Just fact. Just hard fact.
Hard facts.
Okay. So I think that's a really nice way of kind of segueing into some of the more heavier emotions, because this is kind of what we're in a show called Romancing the Dungeon. It's going to be about feelings, and as much as it's a comedy, it's a tragedy. And it's a barrel of laughs. It's a hell of a lot of emotional damage. So how do you and I'm careful because I don't want to step on somebody else's, because there's a really interesting question that I want to put to you that someone has given you.
Okay.
How do we play with big feelings? How do you play with big feelings?
So when you first came to the idea, like with the idea of the podcast to me, I was very excited. I thought it was a really interesting concept. And then it was putting it into practice was a whole different story. I've always thought I was very good with my emotions. I think like on a very personal level, the podcast has taught me a lot about how, like, in some areas I really lack with expressing myself. Even though I'm expressing a character's emotions, it made me realize how sometimes I'm quite uncomfortable with expressing some of those emotions. And I think it's actually improved me as a person for the better as well. And I think it helped a lot leading up to these one-on-one sessions where it's like, this is probably going to be very uncomfortable. How much do you want to dig in? And like, I wasn't going and setting a challenge for myself, or I wasn't going to go make myself feel uncomfortable, but I was very much in the mind frame of I really want to dig into this. And I think if we had done this back at the start, it would have been impossible for me to do it. Whereas I think now, with having these 5 years behind us, also getting used to recording something, getting in and getting to play the character, getting to know the character, that I was like, right, okay. And also, like, working on expressing emotions and stuff through the character, that did prepare me for this, for getting in. And like, not to say it wasn't tough, it was tough. There was parts, I think if you've listened to the last episode, there was definitely parts that were tough, where I think character lines blurred with real life for me at some points, and Declan checking in on me to make sure that I was okay and everything as well. I think, it was just a case of I just dug in and I was like, I wanted to do this. So I don't know if that helps anyone at all, but it's just where I was emotionally, I was ready to dig into it.
So I guess with that, this is going to be such a
Therapy session.
No. this is going to be such kind of a weird question to ask you, and I'm also going to put this. I kind of want to put this to Zool as well, but Eiley Cyrus, if you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear those. What's the point in playing emotions at the table? Like, what do you get out of it? I told you it was going to be a.
No, it's a very good question. I think there's a level of catharsis there because, as well, I find sometimes there's a lot of lines that, for me, with Fia especially, that blur which part's Fia, which part's me. So in a way, it's a way of me working through things as well. Free therapy, yeah. No, it does feel like that. It does. There's and catharsis as well, Zool. Exactly. It does really feel like that. And sometimes it's happened very unintentionally, like in the last episode where I did get upset. That really hit me out of left field. I wasn't expecting to get that emotional. So there is a certain level of catharsis that comes with it, where it's something I've probably been working on in my own personal life, and then, like, it might not be the exact same thing, but translating that feeling to the table has helped me work through things as well, for sure. Certainly with the bigger emotions. And I've, like, not to get too personal, but the last half of last year was very rough for me. So I feel like it has helped me cope with some of those things that happened in my own life as well.
This is one of those things that, and I know, Eiley Cyrus, you made the comment of free therapy and stuff like that. And I know that is kind of like the running joke that TTRPGs is like, it's like therapy. If we say it's like therapy, right? For me, there's something that we have to be very fundamentally aware of. Therapy is a safe practice. And I think if you were going to play big feelings, big emotions, I think first and foremost, everybody has to be in the space for that. Everybody has to have the spoons for that. Because you don't always know what,
could come out.
What could come out. You know what you're planning. You know what, you don't necessarily know what you're going to say, but you have the idea of the session in your head. You don't know how people are going to react to that. You don't know what that can
trigger in someone. Yeah.
My thing is, if it is, and it is, Jesus, I started Romance in the Dungeon after a really horrible toxic relationship, and calling off my wedding, like that. That's where it came from. So I can't sit here and say, geez, it's not therapy and it's not cathartic. It 100% is, and it's and I'm going to steal what Zool said. It's a great way of stretching those muscles in a safe way. That's the important side of it. You can take your emotions to the table, and you can bring them to a character, and you can feel those things in a very real way. But I think that has to happen in a space that everybody is comfortable with it. Everybody is aware of what we're doing. And it's something that we do now way more regularly with Romancing the Dungeon. With actually a lot of my games, I will, and I don't care. People go, that's a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. And if you think it's a spoiler, you don't know what's coming. But I'm telling you, the tone of tonight's game is going to be this. I'm telling you, the story here is coming to this point now where you are going to have to make a decision. And I know for you, in our last one, you put so much of your heart, you put so much of your anger, you put so much of your hurt, you put so much of your love, your joy into this. And I want you to be prepared for what's going to come out of that.
Yeah.
Because it might not be the thing you were expecting. It might not be the thing you were hoping for. You might not get the resolution that you need. And I want you to know that's not because your feelings were invalid. I want you to know that I see what those are. I see what you're doing, and I think you're doing an amazing job. And thank you for bringing those to the table, and thank you for trusting me with those at the table. Here's what I'd like to do with them. Is this something you're up for? And I think people will sit there and go, that's not D&D. That's not. It is. That's D&D to us. That's TTRPG
it is
to us.
And it's so far from us, like you're saying, playing with emotions, because it is an emotional story in highs and lows, happiness, sadness. When these conversations happen before we start recording, when we then go and play, because we're still playing, it is still an actual play, I don't feel like those conversations have hindered me as a player in any way. I don't feel like it's forced me down a path that I didn't want to go down either. I think it is important to reiterate that side of it as well. But I do extremely, really appreciate that we do take that time beforehand to be like, hey, this is where we're going to go with this. How do you feel about it going this way? And taking that moment to think about it. Even sometimes, like, I know Declan sometimes would, like, even after we've recorded, be like, I think this is where we're going to go next week when we meet up again. Have a think about it, see how you feel about it, and then come back to me. Because you are, like, this story, you are playing with big emotions, so it's okay to take that extra little bit of space before you get in and play it, to be like, hey, this is where we're going. Because you're also, because you're playing with emotions, you want to be careful and care for the people at your table as well. So yeah.
I mean, our whole, like, our story, it's like it's a love story, and love in all its different forms. Like, it's about romantic love, platonic love, the love between an adventuring party, uh broken love, twisted, like, it's love in all its forms. And I really think, if you are going to play, and like Zool says, going through big grief and exploring different grief responses in each character has been so fascinating and fulfilling. I don't know how those emotions will change the characters. See, there is that wonderful payoff for trying it. It is, but I think responsibly, we all need to be aware that, though all these emotions can hit differently for some people, and there's a comfort level that goes with this. And I've said it a couple of times, and it was flagged in the last episode that, I didn't break the immersion, but I specifically left in kind of the me above the table asking you, are you okay? Like, are we okay? And I, like, a lot of the times, a lot of those sort of like table directions, those notes to, like, hey, we're gonna cut this scene and we're gonna move on to this thing, we take out. And I left that in because I think if you are gonna do this, then that happens before, during, and after. Um, and one of my all-time favorite things, and Zool has kind of beaten me to the punch with it, is uh it the fact that, I mean, up until like a year ago, 2 years ago, Ben was a guy on the internet playing D&D in Dublin, that we all had a TTRPG crush on. Like, actually, we had a crush on the whole Homebrew cast. But that was very much sort of there's a new person coming to the table. Oh gosh, like, he's really good at role playing. He's really good at, DMing. Oh, is he going to be okay?
Are we
It's
all just a big bunch of weirdos?
yes, is he going to be comfortable with this? Because Homebrew is quite an emotional story. There's quite a lot of, you get wrapped up in your characters. You get wrapped up in, the story itself, the plot. But for us, where the whole campaign is on emotions, it's all about exploring, and trying to figure out the world and figure out where you fit into that. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is, and then it was just an instant click, which was wonderful. And that's been the same for, I will say that's been the same for, Thane, who joined us at the very, very start. And working out his emotions and his character for Diarmid, James with Kyle, and playing that sort of, I'm here to, help the party, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, not totally dismantle and turn you all against each other. Oh shit, I've kind of got a bit of graw for all of, you shitty characters. There's a lot of emotion, There's a
I'll
lot of
even say
emotion.
for Sam with Nate as well and his self-destructiveness after everything that happened in Tezrab,
Mhm. No,
for sure. It's all over it.
but like it's Hephaestus and Dahlia. It's
And Dahlia.
Hephaestus and Sekhmet. It's Hephaestus
It's
and Nate.
Clodagh and Nate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's uh, it's so important. I keep coming back to this. It's so important to just talk to your table, talk to your players, talk to your DM. Um, and if this is something you want to explore, bring it up. If this is something you want to bring to your game as the DM, bring it up and see what the party wants to do. And I wanna go back up because very early on, when we kind of put the prompt out there, uh, Zool kind of made mention of a couple of things. So there's no romance at their table, but we have been exploring grief, fear, rage, guilt, and inadequacy in the past year. Such such an immense scope of feelings. Such a
Mm.
um, and I think there's a huge amount of um uh there's such a weight in all those. We we all love a bit of grief.
Oh, yeah.
Oh jeez.
It's our only way to work through it. Tread softly, honestly, sometimes.
It's yeah, it's again it can be I see what doing having emotions present in the game, not just as a I'm angry, oh god that's funny, but beyond those sort of those emotions, and delving into sort of the vastness of what can happen at a table, and allowing your character to sit into that, and the grief, and then um the rage and the hurt and the betrayal and the joy and the elation and the infatuation, the comfort that creates at the table between the players, not the characters, the players. The trust that you build is it's like it can be a lot, like
It
because
can be.
you can get very very close quickly, and like I think every group that plays together gets excited. You're excited to see each other, but like when the Romance in the Dungeon crowd get together, or Beyond Horizon's Edge, or Saving Grace, or like it's sort of a stupid giddiness, like
Mm.
like it is. I have no problem saying it. I say that about all three of the tables. Stupid giddiness.
Like every time Romancing gets together, it takes Declan an hour and a half to get us to actually like sit the fuck down.
Yeah, and I think it's fairly uh sort of it is dependent, as Tread Softly was saying, kind of on the DM and on the group and what everybody is
Mm.
comfortable with. A couple of
I'm
questions.
also
Sorry,
I'm
listen, yeah.
also a person that I'm also a person that believes in a way like if you think that you don't bring feelings into your games, I don't think there is a game of D&D without a feeling of some sort involved in it. And it could be something as simple as camaraderie, you know, it could be something as simple as like friendship, it could be something simple as like we're working on a goal together. There is feelings involved at the table even if you don't play them at the table. I do feel like for any sort of like group TTRPG, it does exist there somewhere. And you can go as light into it as you want, or even not even pay attention to it, or you can go much deeper into it that we have. It does exist there if you think, oh, there's never emotions at my table. There always is a little bit. There always is. Whether it's like you're in the middle of combat and there's rage because you're rolling really shit. There is emotions at your table. It does exist.
Joy at a nat 20, the excitement at a nat 20. That's
Yes.
emotion.
Yeah.
It might be your emotion as the player, but it is emotion at the table. That's what makes these things the investment that you bring to a game. For your character, you are invested in that character. You
Mm-hmm.
care about them. That is emotion. So it can make for some really really wonderful moments, and just kind of solidify the experience for the whole table, the whole group at that space.
Mm-hmm.
Um, That is, I think one of the um one of the best things about it. It's also, I think, one of the hardest things about it
Yeah.
too. Um, it can be a bit daunting to kind of tackle that uh in that space. Um, One of the questions that we received, Louise, is um, what are the ways you can mentally prepare before and decompress after? So this is, I guess, uh, given all of what's happening to Fia at the moment,
Yeah.
and you mentioned, and I'm not dredging it up, but you mentioned, that uh, your own headspace and what your own experiences of the year, like the before getting into that game and the after of that game. How do you like?
Mm, mm. I know I poked fun at it earlier about us like taking an hour and a half to like calm down and get set up at the table, like when it comes to recording as a group and stuff. But I think that that is part of it. It's taking that time before the game sits and starts to feel out the emotions of the room with the people around you, and I'm not even talking consciously. I'm talking subconsciously. Just having, I think that has an effect subconsciously on us, that we're engaging with our friends in the room before we sit down and play, because it kind of sets up the atmosphere then for the game that you're sitting down to as well. And then afterwards, like Declan has, like, I think you've only got better and better and better at this. It's like the after games, whether it's in group or just like when it's been one on one. That's not like, okay, bye,
Get out.
get out. There's also time for just that decompression together. Because I think you can go home and decompress by yourself, but also having like even just half an hour after you finish your game, you're decompressing together
Hmm,
because you all went through something together for the last 2 hours.
hmm.
Even just playing it through a character, you did go through something together for the last few hours when you were playing. So having those moments of just being in each other's company and feeling those emotions together and coming down off of those emotions together, I feel makes a big difference. And then even afterwards, the check-in texts afterwards that happen with us, and even something as simple as like when we're a group and like when Eilish and Ben go back to Dublin, that they text us that they've made it back and that they had a great day and that they care for us and things like that. Those little things I think all help in the decompression afterwards of playing sessions. Even if they are totally fun, high energy, high octane sessions, you still have to come back down to your base level afterwards for sure. So that's why I think
I
that.
I I I'm gonna echo a lot of what you said, Louise, especially for the after. I do think it's important um that it's not okay. Thanks, get out. Great session. See you next week. See you 2 weeks time. See you tomorrow. Whatever it might be. I think taking 15, 20 minutes, and for us, it's kind of uh for us, it's actually what we do is we're disassembling the, like, unless we're in a mad rush.
Mm.
Um, the thing I love is that we all take time to put the equipment away. People are talking about it, or they're talking about their weekend, the rest of the weekend plans, or Eilish is popping 6 more antihistamines because she was huffing a cat. It's the it's sort of that happened at the table. Let's talk about it. But also, we don't really need to talk about it. Let's just talk about let's just talk about your holiday that you just came back from, or that new
What you're
tattoo
going
that
to
you're
be
thinking
doing
about. Yeah.
tomorrow, or
And
yeah.
and then I find that uh, where a session needs it, where we talk about heavier stuff, you know, hitting us like a wall. Uh,
Mm.
we often do have that sort of, hey, is everybody okay? Is everybody um fine? Does anybody want to talk
Yeah.
about um yeah, I think it works. And then, like I said, sometimes we just don't have to do that. Beforehand,
I would like to say in that as well, that even if you are dealing with big emotions outside, you don't have to always bring them to the table until you're ready. Or if you're never ready, that's also fine as well.
100%. Like, we're kind of we're talking about grief and like working through that, but 100%. If you're like, I don't want to. Can we not do that tonight? Can we not bring? Just speak up. If you don't want to go through this, if you just want to go smash some bandits or some goblins, and rescue something, then I would say just say that. Say that to the person. Like, hey, look, I'm not in the space, Declan, for this. Let's not do it. Let's can we just take a break from the heavy stuff? And yeah, like Ali Cyrus says, I remember when we finished recording the end of season 2, we all just sat in silence for a couple of minutes. I didn't have it in me to even crack a joke. Yeah, we just sat there.
At the end of season 1, I cried.
We as a table, we do kind of sit in our emotions. I know at the end of like Saving Grace or Beyond Horizon's Edge, after we wrap a session, we usually take 10-15 minutes afterwards to how's everybody doing, are we okay? And I think that always helps. I also so there's you don't got to pay your DM €60. You can start paying your DM €60. I am open to being paid. I wonder if I should do a DM for hire. I'm open to be paid if you want to cry at the table. I promise to make you cry. That is. But I and this is something that people like, even like Louise, you were, I think it was in the Romancing the Dungeon, or was it you, or was it Ben? Somebody was taking the piss. No, it was you and Ben lately, about kind of the emotional damage that I inflict at my tables.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It was just sitting there.
No, like for me, like, as I don't want people thinking that I'm some sort of like monster or like trauma garbage man that just comes around fucking hurting people's feelings. I think for me, a lot of the stuff that I enjoy, a lot of the stuff that my whole graw for tabletop role playing games, and my whole love for this space is getting to tell stories. And I think stories that make you feel something are the ones that last with you longer. And I am actually, like, it's funny because I'm actually getting a little upset thinking about it. I've been thinking an awful lot about the end of season 3. I've been thinking an awful lot about the end of this story, and I get really, really sad. I don't know if I'm ready to say goodbye to your characters. Like, I genuinely, I don't know. Because it is, I've said this on the podcast. I've said this to the group. This is the end of Fia, Hephaestus, Nate, Clodagh, and AJ's stories. Like, the stories end, and I hope it's a satisfying ending. I hope it's a happy ending. I hope it's a and like I don't know. I get really emotional thinking about it, because we've gone through so much with this story, and we've gone through so much as a table, and we've gone through so much as friends. And
it also, I think, links back into what we're talking about, bringing emotions to the table. There's certain episodes I listen back to, and where I was in my own personal life, I can hear that again, and it brings me back to that moment again. So yeah, it's also as well, it is going to be sad to finish their stories. Yeah, that's gonna suck.
I think we've all cried at the table.
Yeah,
Um, I think we've all cried at the table, in character
out of
and
character.
as players, like
Yeah.
as friends. We've all cried at the table, and like I think whether you're small table with you and a friend on a Saturday playing D&D, or big table with you and four others, um, then I think bringing a little heart, bringing a little emotion, bringing a little feeling to that story is never a bad thing. Um, and I um I really I really think where everybody is on board, where everybody is being mindful of that, um, then I think you're only going to make for a better experience.
Mm.
Yeah. I Louise, I told you this was only going to be like an hour, and I told you this was only going to be like we'll be over by like 8:30.
That's fine.
Um, I wonder if um like I've kind of I think let me you vamp there for a second, and I'm going to check to see if we've any um
Vamp.
I'll,
Okay.
here, look, I'll give
No,
you
I got no. It's
yeah.
okay. I think as well, like, because we are talking about feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff at the table. It's great. There's also this level of I don't want people to be mystified and thinking that we have it all sorted out. Like we're very like we are emotionally intelligent people, but we are like coming across as extremely emotionally intelligent people. There has been instances where it has gone wrong or it's not been great or things like that. But it's been a learning curve for us as well. We didn't come into this to where we are now. Like how we started out is not who we are now, but it's
Mm,
because we've learned it over the last 5 years as well. Like, yes, we have, like Declan and I specifically, and Eilish, we have had this much longer friendship, and I met Amber for the first time when we sat down at the table together to record Romancing the Dungeon. Same for Sam. None of us knew Sam. None of
mhm.
us. And then like Declan is saying, like having other players then coming into the table, like Ben and like James and that as well. People we didn't know. There's also that element of it as well as like I suppose a little bit of trepidation and stuff. Like how are they going to feel coming in and bringing in emotions to the table and being around other people's emotions and things like that. Like there's always been ups and downs with this, but it has been a learning experience to get us to where we are now and how we we deal with emotions. And there's going to be much more learning for us going forward in future games as well if we're dealing with emotions as well. There's always something you can learn, and there's always something you can improve and get better at.
You actually answered the question.
Did I?
Yeah. The question was like it was literally how important are safety tools and checking in at your table, and like we D8 Dungeon Drive, every DM is required to have a session zero. Every player is required to, and the DM and the producer, to fill in a TTRPG consent checklist. And there are times where we have fallen into that level of comfort with each other, where we're like, "Oh, it's fine. We don't need to do this. We don't need to. We're all grand." And then that's the session where a nerve is touched, something that a player wasn't ready for, or I wasn't ready for, and uh, it's now sprung upon us, and we have to work through it at the
Mm,
table.
mm,
And we are now at a point where we just flat out will say it to each other, that maybe at the end of the session, hey, look, I appreciated that, but I also didn't appreciate that, and I know what you were doing, but I'm not really there. um I think uh I think those what do you even say, mistakes, those lessons have been
lessons, yeah.
really, really important for us, and have only made the table that much more uh, of a safe space, that much more of uh, an area where we're all comfortable with each other, where we're all secure in our feelings with each other.
And I'd also say a little bit of like, for me personally, is also removing the ego when something has been broached to me that maybe like, hey, I didn't feel great about this. It's also, there's that point of yourself that I feel now. For me, what I've done is removing my ego a bit, because it's not about that as well.
Yeah. It has been and it continues to be something that we're learning an awful lot from, both in terms of the creative side and storytelling and editing and producing and uploading and all the other malarkey that goes with it, right into the more emotional stuff, and us as creatives, us as friends, us as performers, and us as individuals, kind of gaining an awful lot out of that. So I think, like, is there anything, Louise, that you want to add? Is there anything you want to make mention of? I'm going to be looking for a channel to raid. We're almost at the hour and a half mark. And you and I do need to talk about Fia and the next couple of sessions after this.
Sorry, guys, you're not going to be part of that one.
there is a question. Do you guys ever come to edit an emotional bit and get pissed off listening to it as you tweak it?
No, I haven't so far.
Pissed off in. Can I ask? Can I just ask? Like, pissed off as in I'm angry this has happened, or pissed off as in that's on. I didn't need to hear that again. Like, is it like can. Like, is it more sort of the, oh man, I have to relive the fucking thing again, or is it, it's not like hitting you yeah.
I don't think I have,
no,
honestly, because
no.
I mean, I remember when we were living together in editing, like, say if I was editing or Declan was editing, you could hear our
hang on.
reaction.
No, to elaborate that, because it's taking you a while to edit it right. So here's the thing behind the curtain. Louise and I both have a particular thing that we really find frustrating about editing. And it's when we come across a new fucking spell or ability, and
Yes.
you're in the flow of your edit, and it's something I can't. And it's happened to me today, and I was convinced we had it. We have never had somebody cast Sacred Flame before.
Stop.
So
No, we didn't. No, it's called Flame On.
What the fuck's called Flame On?
It's called Flame On in the spell in the SFX folder.
Why is it not called spell?
I don't know. You
Sacred
named
Flame?
it. You named it that.
I fucking did not.
Yes, you did, because it's back. It's like an old file from 2020.
Who used it?
You, for Hephaestus. You put it in for Hephaestus.
But she doesn't know. Sacred Flame isn't.
No, she did. No,
She can't cast Sacred Flame.
There is one called Flame On, though. That's Produce Flame.
Produce Flame.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, we've never had Sacred Flame. Trust me, I went to the library and checked, and I just went, maybe we didn't call it, maybe I misspelled Sacred. Maybe I just called it Scared Flame. And
so for anyone who doesn't know this, by the way, we have, for every spell in that any character is used, they have a specific SFX sound that spell does. So if you go back and if you're listening to the seasons again, or if you're listening to like Fia bamfing with the Raven Queen, Hephaestus Eldritch Blast, it's the same freaking sound every time. But coming up with those sounds is an absolute pain in the ass.
So that's the only time, like, and usually like, I'll be editing away, and then I'll like, voice note Louise, there's a new fucking ability, and I'm like, or I'll get one like that back from Louise. So never.
What the fuck do I do?
One of my favorite things, especially with the, like, I think there was an awful lot more, we'll say, editing in the traditional sense of like cutting stuff out in the first season. I think we were very I think because we were new to the medium, we were new to what we were doing, and I think we were sort of trying to I'm going to use a new spell every round. Clodagh won't make it out the front door. I'm just going to tell you that now. Clodagh is not
need
going to
to
make it out
like
the front door.
for every time she does that, just minus her modifiers.
Got it.
Like
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll
every
yeah.
single
Got it.
time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eilish. No, I like even I have to be on Declan's side about this. If you do that, I will kill you.
Yeah.
Kill you.
Awful. Sometimes it's a load of fun because you're like, I'm in an editing mood, and then other times
Yeah.
like, I'm in an editing mood, but I just want to edit the episode. Oh look, someone's used the Thorn Whip. We've never had Thorn Whip before.
And when I say it could take 40 fucking minutes, it could take 40 minutes to come up with this one little 2-3 second sound.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent.
Yeah, tangent. Sorry, because we're really passionate about sound effects. But it's the later, like season 2, season 3. There's not so much this sort of, let's take this and cut that part out because that kind of broke it, and let's bring that part there. We don't do a lot of that anymore. Like it is, that's very much. I've been editing kind of most of season 3, and like even the last day I got into the car and my husband was like, you're in a really good mood, and I was like, oh my god, I did not have to make an entire cut in 20 minutes of an episode, like because of an edit that I was doing. And I like, and so there is moments where we kind of, I've decided, I think in season 2 we were cutting out a lot more of the kind of the table banter. I think kind of got cut out a little bit more.
The table banter, and then there was a lot of questioning rules as well that was cut out.
We generally
which
cut out
we
rules.
still
Yeah,
do.
Cutting out rules and like the time between rolls and stuff like that when people all gets cut. But I love how this
I think now the issue is actually like how to shorten it down because the quality is so good. That's the problem now.
And oftentimes it's that thing of like, hey Louise, are we okay putting out a 40-minute episode? Like, because I think we could split this in half and like leave this as a good thing that we're doing. I love how what was Louise, I'm gonna find someone to raid has turned into let's talk about editing. I guess actually, since I have you, because you are second editor for the podcast. What is there anything you want to talk about with the editing? Like, is there any SFX aside, and the kind of the frustration around the SFX? Anything that you've kind of, aside from me teaching you to edit, is there anything kind of from it that you've gained?
Besides the new skill, it's I think the new skill is the main thing. And it's something I was like, at first when I approached you about helping you edit, like when it started out, I was sitting like beside your shoulder, and the two of us were trying to figure out the sound for the show at the beginning, which was if you actually, it's a lot of me sitting there and Declan using me as a wall to bounce his ideas off of, kind of thing. So he'd like come out with an idea, I'd be like, oh, what about this? He'd be like, actually, no, that gives me a better idea. And he'd go with that kind of idea. That's how it was working at the start. And then it came to, okay, well, do you want help? Do you want me to start doing a few of these? And I'd start doing little bits for you. And then it came where I was taking over and doing full episodes. And I'd be sending them back, and he'd be sending me back pages of notes. I think the most satisfying thing for me that's happened over the last 5 years, and it happened with a few episodes that I did there for season 3, was when I sent them to you. Well, the Christmas ones is a great example. I sent them to you and you said back to me, no notes. I was very happy.
Yeah, I love when you send out an episode into the group and everyone's just like, oh my god, that was hilarious. No notes. There's no, I don't, everything. Hashtag no notes.
No notes.
Like, what is it's like it's like the highest sort of and like I like anytime we do get notes, it's always constructive. It's never I don't like what you've done there, I don't like the way my character sounds, I don't like, because we rarely ever have to edit for narrative. If we do that
kind of ties back into my point about, sorry,
no, go for it.
I cut you off. It kind of cuts back into my point about ego that I brought up earlier as well. I also had to get over my ego when it came to receiving notes as well at the beginning, because I would get really defensive about it.
Yes, Yes, you would.
I did.
It's the same thing. It's because you've worked on it, and you're like,
Mm,
I'm really happy with this, and now I'm going to give it to somebody else, and they're going to tell me, um, uh, what they got the most out of, like,
yeah.
or they didn't like it, or they don't like the sound design, or they don't like the music. And you're like, oh, but I worked really hard on that. It can feel a bit like, you sit down,
Oh,
you give away half
you
your
like you
Saturday.
you do it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
because
they
it
do
is.
like in fairness, the episodes like you could spend a good 4, 5, 6 hours on just one that's like an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes long.
Yeah. And that's a short episode. That's a short session. Like,
Mm,
that's not as, that sometimes I often find those are the easy ones. It's where it's, a 3 hour episode that we just recorded 3 hours straight. We just recorded three, and you're like, okay, I now need to listen to all of this, sound design the first part, figure out where I can make a natural break, because sometimes we just play for 3-4 hours.
4 hours. Yeah, it's finding it ends
Mhm.
right here. It doesn't start great though
Yeah, how do I
for
how
the
do I
next
make that a
one. Yeah.
thing then? Yeah, it's uh that stuff. And I like and it's so funny because and I've talked about what it's like to have a co-editor with my students, and it comes to talking about, post production and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's really, really funny because the person who helps edit the show is someone that I taught how to edit. Like, I walked you through kind of the steps. And then one of the things I always say to them is, as an editor, you find your own way. You should do it my way, because it's the best way. But every editor kind of finds
I
their
have
own
come
sort.
around to your way.
Yes, it does make way more sense. You are doubling the
Yeah,
workload for yourself.
I was. I was.
But I do, and I love the fact that, I can tell, uh, like, I know, listening to an episode, which one of us edited it. Like, I know kind of by the just kind of like just by the decisions, like, where, like, 'cause
Mm,
I tend to put sound effects as it happens in action, whereas I think you tend to put them just sometimes as I'm describing it.
mm,
Like, or so, your character does this, and then you'll play the sound effect where I'll layer it under, and it makes no odd. Like, it doesn't
no.
change anything. Um, and my other
I'm a,
my
I'm a, I'm a much bigger fan of musical cues
mhm,
than
that's what I was gonna say too. Is
SFX.
one of my favorite.
Declan's, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Like, you are very much soundtrack, and like, that, like, and I think you've spent ages trying to find the perfect piece of music, and we both do.
Mm,
But, like,
we both do.
you have, you've kind of you've really loved kind of the musical side of it, whereas I love. Do not get me wrong, I will spend a while looking for a piece of music, but I love the sound design and kind of
Mm.
creating that sort of soundscape for the picture, like, and uh
Which was phenomenal in the last episode of like Una banging around in the kitchen and talking far away and things like that. Like it,
mm,
it makes it.
yeah, no, I do. I love it. Like, see, that's one of my favorite things to do. And sometimes I'm like, if you just and I've asked you sometimes for the raw file that you've edited, because I'm like, can I just do those things? Because I think
Yeah, 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 yeah.
everything else you've done is wonderful, but this is the next thing that, like, sort of the conversation's drifting, so you should pan it. And these little, uh I also think that, uh now sometimes if we do get notes, not always, but sometimes
Not
we get
always,
notes,
no.
like, Louise, they're like, "Pfft, I'm not changing that." Like, yeah, no, you don't have to change that, Louise. They don't know what they're talking about.
It is.
uh,
I'm sorry, guys. Do really appreciate the notes, but sometimes I
we
read them
really
like,
do.
no.
It's like, you sit down, you edit this. But I also, I do love, my other thing that I love kind of that's come out of the editing is, we will send each other tracks. We'll send each other
Oh
music.
yeah.
Hey, look, I'm thinking of doing this, and I'm thinking of this piece of music for it, and we'll send it to each other. And we kind of, or sometimes we find really funny clips that aren't going to make it into the episode.
Oh, I
Or,
constantly, yeah,
and
yeah.
we will just go, oh my God, you should hear this. Like, I can't believe this was said, or I can't believe this happened. And we'll send them to each other first, and then we send them into the group.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's there's a whole section of the latest episode that I'm editing about, and it's kind of the group side of things, and like there's just this fucking whole thing between Ben and Sam and Amber that goes on for way too fucking long.
Why am I not surprised?
We used to do bloopers, Zool. We briefly had a Patreon for a while, and as part of the Patreon, you got the blooper reel for episodes. We might, because we still both use we have a track in our thing for outtakes.
We
That
still, yeah.
we pop in. We have them there. We might look at maybe doing a kind of a highlight reel. Um,
We could do one for season 3, for
yeah,
sure.
we should definitely start, and then we can always work back to season 2.
Hmm.
Because I still we have all those original files. But yeah, there was a suggestion, Louise, that we roll. You should both finish the episode by rolling and see who gets the best of 3.
Okay.
Release the tapes. I don't know if you've got a D20 next to you or beside you.
No, 2 seconds. I will
Okay.
get one.
I don't know what this is going to accomplish, Tread Softly, but here we are. Apparently, we're doing this. So we're about to find out what the hell happens. And apparently, Louise, one of us, whoever rolls. Now, we're also going to be like, we can't just say 20, 20,
Okay.
20. So I think, how many D20s do you have?
I have one. I just have to roll it 3 times.
Okay.
I'll
So
take a little video on my phone as proof, though.
okay, okay. I'm gonna do the same thing. We're gonna put this out, and whichever one of us rolls. So, I think when we record the video,
Okay.
we then send it to each other. Okay.
Okay.
You're also gonna see the blank page where I wrote Ben and Declan with Louise, and there's no notes because we've just been talking for nearly 2 hours or an hour and a half. Okay. So I'm gonna roll. Okay. Okay. That's an 11.
Okay.
A 10. God, how average. And a 16.
Oh,
So
fuck.
21, 37.
37. Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to send you that video now so you don't think I was fluffing my way through it.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do mine now. So, 4.
Okay, starting off strong.
A 6.
Okay, a 10. We're up to 10. There's no way she's getting me now. So
And an 11.
Okay, so I'm getting advantage in our next episode. And if you
Thanks, Tread Softly.
if you want to send me the video there as well, I can send it on to Dai to put up on. So great. I'm going to hang on to that advantage because I'm really excited for the next time we sit down to record together. I'm going to write that in.
I am very nervous.
Declan has advantage. Advantage against Louise. I'm going to write that down. That's in my notes. Against Louise. This never happened.
Unfortunately, there's video fucking evidence now.
There's I have the YouTube channel. I have the Twitch channel. So what's your new character like, Louise?
She's very sturdy. She's lots of hit points, and she's going to snap some necks.
And she doesn't feel emotion.
No, she just feels nothing but rage.
I tell you what, I think because Louise and I still need a quick change of subject. Too late. We've got a Louise. I'm just gonna, before I kind of get ready to raid a channel. I just want to say thank you so much for your time this evening. Absolutely love getting to play. We've like I said, we've been playing each other with games with each other for a long time. And it's been so much fun to see your kind of how you respond and how you've grown in this hobby. And like Fia is you've brought so much heart to her. and I'm really, really excited to see what you're gonna do next with her, and where this story is going to go. So while I get ready to pop into a channel, do you want to tell people where they can follow you, or do you want to tell people about anything else you're doing, or anything like that?
So I suppose if you liked what we were talking about and you haven't listened to the podcast yet, please do. Like, very, very proud of it. Very proud of what we all do together, and also I'm very proud of what Declan and I put out in the edits as well. I'm not the most active person on socials. You mostly see me kind of the place I'm actually most active, even though it's not very often, is in the Discord channel. So if you haven't joined our Discord, please do. The link is there in the chat. It's really nice. It's really chill, really lovely. And yeah, just catch me on a Romancing the Dungeon, released every second Friday. Listen to the finale of Fia's story on Valentine's Day.
Oh, the timing of that was so accidental as well.
Yeah. I think I'm Twiggy B101 in the Discord Zool. My picture anyway is a picture of Fia, of her art. I think I answered one of the Role Players Unite questions today. You'll see that in there for Fia. So that's me. So if you want to ask any questions in there, please do.
The whole episode on Valentine's Day, on brand, but a total accident, because we were supposed to start a week earlier.
Yes.
We just held back a week. I don't know why. I think we just did because the weather was so bad and
weather was
shit. Everyone was just kind of tired and everything around here. So we're like, everyone just take the week off. Don't worry about socials. Don't worry about. So let's just take the week off. A big thank you to everybody in chat for joining us. It does. I like an hour and 41 minutes. Didn't feel like an hour and 41 minutes. It never does when you when I'm chatting away with someone who I have so much graw and respect for, and to then have the company in chat always makes this thing just feel a little bit like, oh, there's people out there and people are listening and people are chatting away along. So thank you all so much for your time, for your attention. Have a wonderful week. I'm back on Monday with the next episode of Saving Grace. I'm so much excited. We have a new series that started last Thursday as well, TTRPG Trials, where 4 DMs trial 4 different systems over the next couple of weeks and months, beginning with our very own Amber, and a system that she chose called Stewpot. So the first episode has gone out. It'll be up on our YouTube channel later on, over the weekend. You can check out their initial thoughts. They start playing it next week. So if you want to find out what Stewpot's about, how it works, how it runs, the guys will be doing a game, the first of 2 games, starting next Thursday here on D8 Dungeon. From all of us, hope you have a fantastic Friday tomorrow, if it's Friday tomorrow for you. It could be Saturday tomorrow, depending on your time zone, or the time of the day that you're listening or watching to this. I'm just struggling through this now. I don't know why. So
word salad.
There we go. Mind yourselves, and we are going to go raid our friends over at Ampersand D20. So do stick around. I think they're in the middle of an episode. So let's drop in and see how they get on.
Bye.